توب ستوريز من وطن الكرامة.
Hello, welcome to Watan Karama News Channel. It's 9 p.m. our time for top stories, and we start with latest developments in Libya. Sources said a meeting of parliament is now being held in which the parliament is discussing names of candidates for presidency of consensus government. The sources noted that name of former envoy for the United Nations Abdel Rahman Shalgam was mentioned again among other names, but ordered for the post in the proposed government. Parliament member El Hadi Saghir said in a press statement that discussing the nomination of the Prime Minister and his deputy has been postponed to first week of next September. Parliament members involved in the Sikhirat political dialogue stressed their insistence on the continuation of dialogue sessions in the Moroccan city of Sikhirat. The Parliament's representatives noted in a message to the UN envoy to Libya, Bernardino Leon, that the request comes within the framework of gratitude to Kingdom of Morocco for what it has introduced to Libyan people in their ordeal and for commitment to neutral role of this political track. Moreover, the dialogue participants stressed that their participation in Geneva talks next week will be only a last station before their return for the remaining rounds of the signing and political agreement in the Moroccan city of Sikhirat. The United Nations has agreed to move the dialogue from the Moroccan Sikhirat city to Geneva in Switzerland immediately after receiving a recommendation of UN envoy Bernardino Leon at a request by the outgoing General National Congress GNC. The United Nations has announced that it plans to launch a new round of talks between the Libyan parties in Geneva as part of its efforts to form a national unity government. For his part, the UN envoy Leon announced that the dialogue parties will tackle the names of candidates for government of national reconciliation next week, calling on the delegation of the outgoing General National Congress to join the dialogue to reach an agreement as soon as possible. The government issued a statement in which it renewed its calling for the international community to lift the ban imposed on arming the armed forces and providing them with the necessary technical equipment to monitor the border so that they can reduce the risk of illegal immigration. The statement said that the government formed a committee to address this phenomena headed by the Deputy Prime Minister, which began its contacts with the European Union and the upstream countries to put a strategy for dealing with this phenomena. In the meantime, Reuters news agency reported that Libyan Coastal Guard rescued after 200 of the boat sinking of the Wara coast, which was heading towards Italy's shores within the framework of government's efforts to reduce illegal immigration. Meanwhile, the government issued a statement hailing efforts of wise men which resulted in return of Al-Gawalish people to their area after 3 years of displacement within framework of the national reconciliation taking place in area of Nafusa mountain. Moreover, the government announced its commitment to providing all facilities that will help Al-Gawalish people to return to normal life. In the meantime, the government renewed in its statement its call for the displaced people to return to their towns, put aside their differences and hatred, and contribute to the achievement of comprehensive national reconciliation based on the construction of Libya as a state of law and institutions. And still in Libya, local sources said terrorist Daesh elements abducted a Korean citizen and his life in Sirte. The sources confirmed that the group's members kidnapped the Korean citizen and his wife at a checkpoint east of al-Qandil town, where the two Koreans were on their way to the city of Tripoli to leave the country, adding that the target of the operation and time of their release have not been known until now. And still in Libya, but now about immigration, spokesman for the Red Cross Society, Mohammed El Misrati, said that 105 illegal immigrants died after two boats of the Libyan coast sank while they were trying to cross into Europe. Misrati added that the Red Cross teams managed in cooperation with the Coast Guard to save about 200 immigrants, while they are still searching for other 40 immigrants. The migrants' bodies were transported from the coast of cities west of Tripoli to hospitals in Tripoli in preparation for submission to the center. The spokesman for the Red Cross noted that the migrants were from Syria, Bangladesh and other African countries. Now we transfer to Arab arena, and especially in Iraq. Tens of thousands of demonstrators protested in Baghdad and southern provinces of Iraq, calling for real reforms and end to political corruption. Thousands more rallied in Najaf, Basra and other cities across the Shiite southern heartland following a call from powerful Shiite cleric Muqtada Sadr in what a senior security official called the biggest protest of the summer. The capital and many southern cities have witnessed demonstrations in recent weeks calling for provisions of basic services, the trial of corrupt politicians, and the shake-up of a system riddled with graft and incompetence. Protesters' demands have focused more on encouraging Abadi to accelerate reforms, but corrupt officials on trial are losing the grip of powerful parties over the state. Thousands of protesters waving Lebanese flags and chanting anti-government slogans converged on a square in central Beirut today for a rally against political leaders they say are incompetent and corrupt. Protesters played music and sang as they headed toward Martyr Square overlooking the sea. Security forces have installed additional barricades and barbed wire. Similar protests descended into violence last week, and Prime Minister Tamam Salam threatened to resign, a move that could tip the state struggling with political deadlock and spillover from Syria into deeper turmoil. Meanwhile, Amnesty International said today Lebanon should investigate allegations that security personnel used excessive force to disperse protesters in Beirut last week, calling for restraints ahead of new rally. Syrian police today they are hoping to help identify 71 refugees found in the abandoned lorry on Syrian highway by examining mobile phones found on some of the bodies. 4 children were among the dead, presumed to be from Syria and possibly Afghanistan, who were found on Thursday. Fluids from the decomposing bodies were seeping from the door of the truck left on a highway leading from Hungary to Vienna. A police spokesman said searches of backpacks and clothing have provided new clues apart from one Syrian travel document, adding that numbers and data from phones should provide vital leads. Police estimated that refugees could have been dead for up to 2 days, and the truck might have been standing on the hard shoulder of the highway for as long as 24 hours. And now about terrorism, especially Boko Haram. Chadian security sources said today Chad has executed 10 members of the Nigerian militant Boko Haram by firing a squad a day after they were sentenced on terrorism charges. One of the sources said that they were shot this morning in a city about 60 kilometers northeast of the capital, Jamina. More than 40 people were killed in these attacks in June and July, prompting Chadian President Idris Deby to introduce a series of tough news and new anti-terror laws. Chad is leading the country in regional 8,700 strong military task force fighting Boko Haram. Deby says the insurgents movement could be destroyed by year end. Troops from the United States and South Korea held a live fire exercise as part of their annual military drill, Yunchi Freedom Guardian UFGA. The South Korean Defense Ministry said about 2,000 troops from both countries participated in the drill, marking the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan's colonial rule. 97 tanks and armored vehicles, 120 artilleries, 45 helicopters and 42 fighters jets were also mobilized. There are around 28,500 U.S. troops stationed in South Korea, while the United States has maintained a large military presence since 1950. 1950 53 Korea War. North and South Korea are still technically at war since the 1950 53 Korea War ended in a truce without a peace treaty. Former Greek Premier Alex Tsipras urged supporters today to give up a mandate to complete the country's political transformation as a poll showed his leftist Syria's party's lead slipping ahead of elections next month. Tsipras said his short revenue gave him the experience necessary to complete reforms, while also taking a swipe of members of Syria's left actions, which broke away last week to form a new party. Tsipras abruptly resigned last weekdays after clinching an €86 billion bailout package from Greece's Eurozone and International Monetary Fund, aiming to crush a rebellion by far-left lawmakers and tighten his grip on power. But Tsipras' gamble to call early elections could backfire, opinion polls suggest, with most Greeks disapproving of his decisions to seek a fresh mandate on how he handled the talks with creditors. My audience, that is a wrap-up of our top stories for today. For much more, you can check our website www.الكرامة.tv. Thanks very much for seeing us. My greeting, رانيا البليدى.
التالي